Three women in Embihli village in Sterkspruit were shot dead last week, and a fourth is in hospital in a critical condition, allegedly after being accused of witchcraft. The killing of the three is the latest in a string of similar murders in the Eastern Cape, where women were targeted because they were suspected of practicing witchcraft. As we continue to celebrate Women's Month, today we look at the torture and the abuse that women continue to experience in the name of being accused of witchcraft. We speak to the Deputy Minister responsible for the Department of Co-operative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Obed Bapela, who joins me now live via Zoom. DM, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the SABC News channel.
Good afternoon, Palisa, and to the viewers of SABC News.
Thank you so much indeed for your time, DM. So, what's government's response, your department specifically, on these allegations and the reports coming out of the Eastern Cape?
Let's start first by condemning any killings of whatever nature based on suspicion or witchcraft, or any other killing of another human being by other human beings. And I think that has to be condemned strongly. And call on our people that witchcraft is something that we cannot easily prove. And it's based on hearsay, and then also it based on other people telling you stories, and it's not an accurate element. If there's a story of any bewitching, why don't you go to the police, open up a case, and let the police do the investigation, difficult as it may be, but at least we are not taking the law into our own hands.
Let's just talk to what the law says in such instances, DM, because we do know that some African countries are policing this act. If you're suspected of witchcraft in other countries, you are subjected to the rule of law. What do we have here at home?
Well, we have a law that is an old law that the traditional practitioners, is Nyangas and Dingaga, have already been approaching the Department of Health and the Department of Culture to review that law, because in the point of the initiation of the law at the time, it was ridiculing the traditional leaders as the bearers of the bad news, as bearers of suspecting people of witchcraft and telling others that you are in this situation because so and so is bewitching you. So then we don't have to really go back to that law soon after the COVID-19 and then really begin, if then, because we thought that witchcraft killing has come to an end or subsided in South Africa. It was rife in Limpopo at some point, rife in KZN, rife in the Free State. Now we see Eastern Cape is now taking a lead. And I think this is a worrying point. We just have really to begin to relook at that law and really bring sanity that witchcraft, if indeed it does exist, we have to outlaw it altogether and completely.
And the reality, DM, is that you'd hardly hear a man being accused of witchcraft. Most of the time it's women who are accused of such, and it's Women's Month now. What awareness campaigns do you have as government? Because on the other hand, I suppose this speaks directly again to gender-based violence, which is another crisis that we're facing as a country.
Well, look, it's a Women's Month, and we want to commemorate the month and then celebrate the month without any gender-based violence on women. Men must really stand up and then protect the women's lives, not abuse them, not insult them, or do any other thing. And in as far as the witchcraft, indeed, it happened in the month of August, and then therefore any gender-based violence, irrespective of the causes, we need to condemn it, and nothing we call on all men really to take a stand. And indeed, I don't know why this thing of always accusing old women with witchcraft, and it has happened in all the provinces that it will always be some old women that they then get accused. And I do not know what is the phenomena, what causes that phenomena. And I think there was in 1987 an investigation that was done by the then United Democratic Front when the witchcraft was very big in Limpopo. So most of the time when the investigation came out is jealousy. When you progress in life, people then think of doing wrong things on you or accuse you of something. or if some difficult situation arises in their life, they will look around in the village and start pointing fingers at a particular direction. And unfortunately, it will be old women. And but that has come to an end in Limpopo. It might be happening here and there, but it's no longer as massive. We just want really to curtail this thing, review the law, and then ensure that as government, we are this caring government, protect the elders, particularly the women who are always being accused, particularly in the villages, not much in the townships. And I think education and awareness also will have to follow to ensure, therefore, that we save lives.
So you talk about education and awareness, DM. I wanted you to speak to perhaps the programs. Does your department have programs in place, awareness, education programs to talk about witchcraft? What conversations are we having? As you say that previously, this was prevalent in Limpopo, KwaZulu-Natal, the Free State and the Eastern Cape now. Are we having sufficient or enough conversations around this issue?
I wouldn't say there's enough conversation. Unfortunately, we seem to be reactive. We react when an incident happens, then we start revisiting the matter. 2 years ago, I was in Limpopo. I went to quite a number of places. I even went to a place called Hamoloi, where a number of people who were ejected out of their own villages across Limpopo. They found a traditional leader who then said, "Come here, I'll give you a home." I went to that area to go and find out as to what really was the cause of their being evicted of their own areas. All of them tell stories of being suspicious, suspected by other people, wrongly pointed at, and most of them, it was based on jealousy, rivalry that happens within communities. And then they'll then find some scapegoat of pointing at somebody in that process. We went there with traditional leaders, and we did agree that we need to embark on a national program, taking the matter to all those provinces that are highly affected, those who have high incidents. But unfortunately, as I said, we only react when an incident happens. And I think it should be an overall program. We'll have to look at it post-COVID, because now all the resources of the countries are there to save lives, to ensure, therefore, that we save the people from dying from the pandemic of COVID. But post-COVID, I think we are going to have incidences of this nature, because people will be unemployed, they've lost their jobs, and anything that might have led to that, they will not be pointing at the economy that is collapsing. They will start pointing at somebody next door or somebody in the village and say, "I've lost a job because of this." And I think it's a matter that we'll have to start engaging on it as part of the post-COVID activities, and but develop programs now.
And the question is, why are we being reactionary to all of this, DM? But also, what's your view? Do you not think that sometimes traditional practices may be confused with witchcraft? For example, if you come to my house, a kichesa impepo, a sage burning, and then the other, or rather the second person does not believe in that, they may sort of see it as witchcraft for the fact that it's not their traditional practice at all. So do you not think that the confusion around traditional practices between the different people, so to say, could also be the cause of this? Going back to my issue of education, awareness, the campaigns that you may have, the conversations that we're having, even so on social media. I remember that in recent days on social media, there was this salt and vinegar challenge. I don't know if you had seen it, where people were saying that if you sleep with salt and vinegar under your bed, then you'll start seeing whoever is bewitching you. So are those relevant conversations that are we supposed to having, going as far as reflecting on traditional practices, DM?
Well, it's a very difficult subject, I must say. A lot of distortions in it, and then also a lot of beliefs that are also coming in, and then religion vis-a-vis tradition also clashing at some point. And then those indeed are true. I didn't hear about the salt and vinegar, so I'm hearing it from you for the first time. But the one of Impepa, instance, I did pick it up during those days, because the traditional practitioners were telling me that the tree that you get Impepa from is the same tree that the church, if you go to Anglican church, they use, but then the incense in the Anglican church is spiced with perfumes, so that as the altar boys move around with it. It's from the same tree. The difference is that yours is not perfumed, and the other one is perfumed. And but the tree is the same.
It's the same. Well,
and therefore we just have to really. Okay.
All right. So we
wanted to say something.
Yeah, we have to leave it at that, DM, due to time constraints. But I would really like to challenge you to go have a look at that salt and vinegar a challenge. Very scary stories coming out of that. But thank you so much for coming through.